Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're tackling a massive challenge. How do we, as educators, overcome standardization fatigue? We're going to unpack how you can weave three really powerful pedagogical pillars into one cohesive classroom blueprint. Because let's face it, we all know what happens when strict, rigid educational mandates collide with the messy, vibrant world of student creativity. It's tough. But we're going to explore exactly how to navigate that tension and reclaim the classroom. To get there, we'll first diagnose this whole creativity crisis. Then we'll dive right into our three solutions: building psychological safety, implementing the writing workshop, and engaging our multimodal learners. Finally, we'll tie the whole shebang together with a concept called embracing rigorous whimsy. Let's get into it. Starting off with Section 1, the creativity crisis. Now, we hear a lot about falling test scores in math or reading, right? But there's a much quieter and, honestly, kind of insidious decline happening in our schools. Just look at this stark number, 1990. That is the exact year researchers documented a persistent decline in students' creative thinking scores. This isn't just a hunch. Researcher Kyung-hee Kim analyzed over 270,000 results from the Torrance test of creative thinking. And man, the data showed this drop wasn't just a blip. It's been a steady downward trend since 1990. And the absolute most alarming part? The greatest decline hit the primary grades, specifically kindergarten through third grade. I mean, these are the formative years. Imagination is supposed to be at its absolute peak, yet the data shows it's literally being suppressed. So what's causing this? Well, the immense pressure of standardized testing and formulaic instruction has led to what researcher David Berliner provocatively labeled creaticide. Yeah, literally the death of creativity in schools. In an era totally dominated by high-stakes testing, teachers are pressured into incredibly narrow curricular goals. Think about it. When learning is equated entirely with producing the correct, standardized response, and when highly linear structures are the only things rewarded on a rubric, kids' divergent thinking doesn't stand a chance. We're essentially training them to stop taking intellectual leaps. But hey, it doesn't have to be this way. Let's move to Section 2, building psychological safety. Standards and creativity do not have to be mutually exclusive. Our first pillar establishes the absolute baseline for student innovation because you simply cannot have creative output without a rock-solid foundation of trust. Before a kid can be truly creative, they have to feel secure. This brings us to psychological safety. Amy Edmondson originally developed this concept in 1999 for the corporate world, but wow, it translates perfectly to the classroom, especially when it comes to reducing things like language learning anxiety. In any learning setting, taking a risk by speaking up or sharing a wild idea is a daily requirement. If a student doesn't feel safe from embarrassment, their brain literally shuts down the pathways needed for that creative risk-taking. If they're afraid of being laughed at, they're just going to check out. So how do we transform the classroom ecosystem? We build this safety sequentially. First up, intentionally applaud the risk-takers. You've got to praise the effort over the correctness, showing everyone that just attempting a unique answer is a huge win. Second, ensure inclusion safety. Notice who's staying silent and gently engage those quiet students one-on-one or in small groups. Calling them out publicly, that instantly spikes anxiety. Skip that. Finally, you have to model vulnerability yourself. There's this great story of an educator who openly admitted to her class that she actually didn't know the answer to a textbook question. Instead of brushing it off, she pulled up a chair and looked it up right alongside them. Sure, the kids chuckled at first, but in the very next session, volunteer rates and participation absolutely skyrocketed. Admitting your mistakes signals that learning is a shared, wonderfully messy process. All right, with safety established, let's jump into Section 3, the writing workshop. Now, we can build an actionable academic framework that actually reclaims student voice. We're talking about a fundamental shift in how kids approach creating text. Historically, a lot of us fell into the rigid process approach. You know the drill, a highly linear sequence driven by an assign and assess mentality, where the teacher is the only audience. Brainstorm, draft, edit, publish. It was mostly silent and completely solitary. Contrast that with the writing workshop model. Championed by pioneers like Donald Graves and the National Writing Project, this approach is highly social, incredibly recursive, and distinctly student-led. It's packed with talk, peer conferencing, and kids actively choosing their own topics. It recognizes that writing isn't just a cognitive task. It's a deeply social endeavor. And the research completely backs this up. Student engagement flourishes when teachers use their own autonomy to fold this kind of creativity right back into strict district mandates. We know for a fact that teachers who have strong self-efficacy in their own writing and who participate in professional development like the National Writing Project are way more likely to use these evidence-based workshop practices. They learn to view a mandated curriculum not as some rigid, unchangeable script, but as a flexible framework they can supplement and differentiate. They use their professional autonomy to ensure students are genuinely developing as writers, instead of just acting like little compliance machines churning out sterile formulaic essays. Moving right along, let's explore Section 4, Engaging Multimodal Learners. Our third pillar breaks free from the tired, old routines of traditional lectures so we can reach absolutely every type of learner in the room. Instead of expecting all kids to learn via a wall of text or a long lecture, multimodal learning engages multiple sensory channels simultaneously. Look, we all know people have diverse learning preferences. This approach leans hard into that reality by presenting information through images, videos, audio, and hands-on physical interactions. But here's the really cool part. This isn't just about catering to a preferred learning style. It's actually about reinforcing understanding. When you allow the brain to process information through several pathways all at once, the learning becomes significantly more sticky. Those abstract concepts, they finally anchor deep into long-term memory. Now, don't panic. Implementing this doesn't mean you have to reinvent your entire classroom routine from scratch. It just means strategically injecting small, dynamic elements into your standard week. Imagine taking a typical history lesson and dropping in a quick virtual reality tour of an ancient city. Or think about having students reflect on a science unit by recording a podcast or a short vlog, rather than writing yet another standard summary paragraph. You can throw in interactive multimedia quizzes, tactile hands-on experiments, or honestly, something as simple as adding specific music and sound effects to set the vibe of a lesson. By mixing in these tools, you're catering to diverse learners and dramatically boosting the overall energy in the room. Let's pull this all together in our final segment, Section 5, Embracing Rigorous Whimsy. This is where we tie our three pillars together, proving that serious academics and creative joy actually share a glorious, symbiotic relationship. You absolutely do not have to choose between meeting state standards and fostering innovation. Consider this classic example from educator Ralph Fletcher. A teacher reads the Lorax to her class, and the kids are completely riveted. But then she assigns them to write a letter to the fictitious character Mr. Onceler, complaining about the trees. Bam! Instantly, the kids slump in their chairs. The magic is gone. Why? Because the exercise lacks an authentic purpose. No one real is ever going to read that letter. But what if instead she asked them to use those exact same writing standards to create a real-world public service announcement about conservation for their own local community? Same academic rigor, but completely transformed by authentic purpose. It's a total game changer. This right here is exactly what experts Burval and Reiter call rigorous whimsy. It's all about taking something seemingly trivial and making it substantially meaningful through intentional creative expression. It proves that when we weave psychological safety, the highly social vibe of writing workshops, and dynamic multimodal tools all together, we easily crush rigorous standards without ever sacrificing the spirit of creation. Creative exploration and content learning deeply inform one another. We can challenge our students to develop ideas that reach far beyond the four walls of the classroom, actively turning a standard curriculum requirement into an unparalleled opportunity for real innovation. Let's be real. The standards are always going to be there, and assessments aren't going away anytime soon. But as you reflect on this blueprint, I want to leave you with this. How are you going to leverage your own professional autonomy to shatter the creativity crisis in your community? How will you make learning both deeply rigorous and wonderfully whimsical for your students? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I challenge you to start building that safe, creative, multimodal environment today.